Morning. Welcome to Licensing Hearing Subcommittee. The chair for today's committee is Councillor Eleanor Comley, who I'll hand over to perform the welcome and introductions. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudette, and welcome everybody to this licensing hearing. I'd like to thank all the officers who've worked so hard to make it possible for us to hold this meeting virtually while we're not able to meet in person. We are getting the hang of it now. We've been doing a few weeks of these, but I apologise in advance if there is any technical clunkiness. We will try and sort things out as quickly as we can, and we just ask for patience. In order to work in this forum, we have made some changes to the process in that we will collect questions together and ask them all at once rather than have free questioning at the end of every representation. I would also highlight that in a Zoom meeting, it is harder for people to maintain focus for a very long period of time. So I would advise anyone making representations to make their points as quickly and succinctly as possible, because you will find people don't focus on a long speech on Zoom. So I'd like first to introduce the members of the committee. My name is Councillor Eleanor Comley. I'm a councillor for Bishopston and Ashley Down. Councillor Massey, can I invite you to unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name's Brenda Massey. I'm councillor for Southmead.
And Councillor Shah.
Good morning. My name is Councillor Afzal Shah. I'm the councillor for Eastern Ward.
Thank you. Now, I'll just quickly outline the procedure. This, exactly as if we met in person, is an informal and non-adversarial hearing, and all comments and all questions should be directed through me as the chair. We will invite the policy advisor, the licensing officer, to introduce the report, and we will have questions from members and legal advisor to the committee to clarify anything in that report. Then the applicant and the applicant's representative will be invited to present the application. And again, we'll have questions from members of the committee and officers advising the committee to the applicant. If anyone else who's present has questions that they wish to address to the applicant, I'd ask you to save those until you make your own representation and you have the microphone. Then we will have the police and any regulatory authority presentation. So in that case, today it's just the police. And again, we'll have questions asked of them. Then the police will be given an opportunity to sum up. The representative and the applicant will be given their chance to sum up, and then we'll retire to deliberate, and you'll all be invited back to hear the decision once we've made it. Just a reminder, questions are for clarification, should be specific. It's not an opportunity to make an extra statement. The chat function, which is available on this platform, is just to be used for technical issues. If, for example, you can't hear and you're unable to unmute your microphone to speak and you wish to attract attention, use the chat. But don't use the chat for anything that belongs in the hearing, because that won't be broadcast. It won't form part of the public hearing. Finally, just a reminder, this meeting will be streamed to YouTube. And so please be mindful that your image and participation in this meeting will be online for a number of weeks. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Carl Knights, Licensing Officer and Policy Advisor to this committee, to present the application.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be fairly brief with this one. As you know, this is an application for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of 16 Kellaway Avenue. The application seeks the sale of alcohol on Sundays from 9 in the morning to 10 in the evening, and Mondays through to Saturday from 9 in the morning 11 in the evening. Opening hours are requested from Sunday from 8 in the morning until 10 at night, and Monday to Saturday also 8 in the morning to 10 at night, so the same hours. although obviously you'll notice that the opening hours are 1 hour before the sale of alcohol has been requested. We have received one representation from the police who are recommending that the application be refused. Thank you.
Can you just unmute yourself,
Councillor
Eleanor?
Massey, do you have any questions?
Councillor Massey, did you unmute yourself?
That's
I
right.
am unmuted. I am unmuted.
You are now.
Oh, I was before.
You weren't
No,
before.
no questions at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shah, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chair. No questions just as yet. Thank you.
Ashley Clark, as the legal advisor to the committee, do you have any questions or anything you wish to clarify at this point?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd now like to move on to the applicant and the applicant's representative. I'd like to invite you both to present the application, and then we'll have questions after that.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes. Hi, good morning. My name is Stuart Gibson, representing Mr. Ali, the applicant today. As you've heard, this is an application for a new premises license for an off sales. We're asking for fairly modest hours, as you've heard, 9 till 11 Monday to Saturday and 9 till 10 on a Sunday. The applicant before you currently runs the licensed premises at number 12 Kellaway Avenue and has done so for the last 5 years. He's currently running that premises. And should you be minded to grant the license today, the intention is to move the business into number 16, which is the premises before you this morning. And once that takes place, the applicant will surrender the license for number 12. So we're not looking at an additional licensed premises for the area. It is purely a case of the applicant seeking to move his business to a new premises. Mr. Ali is currently the premises license holder at number 12, which I understand is known as Kellaway Quarter to you, and is, as I said, has been licensed for the previous 5 years. On this current application, he also intends to be the DPS. The reason for this simply is Mr. Ali believes that moving his business to a new premises, which is a bigger premises, it gives him more potential to succeed. And you don't need me to remind you in the current situation we all face ourselves. It's very important that retailers are doing all they can to try and ensure they come out at the other end of this healthy, fit and well and trading. Because let's not kid ourselves, unfortunately, it's a statement of fact. If you pick up the papers, listen to the news on the radio or television or look on the internet, there are many, many, many businesses that will not survive this current pandemic that we are going through. But here we have a retailer who's doing what he believes to be necessary to ensure that he is going to survive in the long term. His requested hours, as we've already spoken, are very similar to the hours he currently enjoys with Kellaway Quarter. Slight difference. In Kellaway Quarter, he opens an hour earlier, but closes an hour earlier. So we're just moving the goalpost slightly. Instead of opening at 8, he opens at 9. Instead of closing at 10, he wishes to close at 11. Sundays obviously being different, again, 9 till 10. As I've said, he's run this business at number 12 without incident for the past 5 years, except for the one that's before you today, that the police have brought before you as a reason for the representation. And it's an incident that took place on the 18th of April of this year. To put it very briefly and to succinct, Mr. Ali pushed a member of the public outside the front entrance of his store. He did this in an effort to get this customer to go away and leave them alone. The member of the public had been in the store, he was swearing, and it was very insulting about Mr. Ali's mother and father, who were recently deceased. Mr. Ali became upset and pushed the customer, urging him to go away and leave them alone. That was it. That was the sum total of the alleged assault that you have before you. Now, Mr. Ali obviously knows, in hindsight, he shouldn't have done that. There's no kind of provocation warrants that, but I'm sure you can understand he was very upset on the day by the actions of this customer. The police were called, presumably by the customer himself, and the police attended the premises, were shown CCTV at the time of the incident, and Mr. Ali fully cooperated with the police on the day of that visit on the 18th. Now, at that point, when the police arrived, and also when the customer alleged swearing and insults were going on, Mr. Ali was on the shop floor working on installing new cameras to his CCTV system. He was doing this because the current system, for whatever reason, had broken down and was not working properly. Now, I ask because yesterday afternoon, I was made available to me a couple of what you would probably call Amazon receipts for CCTV systems that were ordered by Mr. Ali. And I think it shows, and I did forward these on and ask them to be circulated to the members today. Hopefully that has been the case. I do hope it has. But yes. It does. Thank you. The reason I do that simply is because of the estimated delivery time. 12th March, 13th of March was the time that those systems were on. It's for no other reason, Madam Chair, is to say, well, look, this did happen. Mr. Ali did order a new cameras. And on this particular point, he was getting round to putting the cameras in place. Now, when the police arrived to investigate the alleged incident, the police witnessed the fact that Mr. Ali was actually putting cameras up in his shop and the boxes were on the floor and so forth. So I don't think there can be any doubt that this indeed was taking place. The cameras weren't working properly. Mr. Ali was seeking to put that right and install new cameras. The reason I submitted those Amazon receipts purely or orders was to show that this indeed did take place. However, you also hear from you will hear from the police testament that they requested CCTV again on the 27th of the 4th. This now was no longer available, and this was part of the problem of the system. The system at the time was recording and deleting after 7 days, and Mr. Ali was attempting at this point in time to put this right. But I do stress the police officer who attended on the 18th was shown CCTV of the actual incident that took place on the day. Now, what concerns me slightly on this in terms of representation is with the police, we have two areas of concern. Obviously, we have this incident, which I'll deal with now, and then there's one other area that I will touch on. This incident now took place exactly 2 months ago, 18th of April, this took place. We're now the 18th of June. Mr. Ali tells me categorically he has not had any further contact at all from the police in those 2 months. He's not been interviewed. There's no statements been taken. The licensing police officer has not spoken to him on the incident at all. So I understand it, and reading the police objection, it says this is an ongoing situation. But after 2 months, nothing further has taken place. So we can only assume from that that it is unlikely that anything further will take place on this incident. And I do stress once again, this is a one-off event in the last 5 years that Mr. Ali has acted, shall we say, out of character on this particular occasion, and knows that he shouldn't have done. The other reason for the police rep is to say at the beginning they talk about we don't need another off license, we've got Tesco's and so forth. Well, as I've said to you at the beginning of this presentation, there is no additional off license, because if one is granted, the other one, number 12, will be surrendered. So the numbers for yourselves will be exactly the same. It's a case of moving a business from number 12 to number 16. We then go on to, and I'll finish very, very briefly, finishing now, the conditions offered by the police. And I have to say, we're quite happy with those. If you were reminded to grant today, to have those conditions added to the license. And there's one simple reason for that, because those are the conditions that appear on the license at number 12. And I think over the last 5 years, we've been able, or Mr. Ali's been able to prove that those conditions that you have put on the license when this was granted have worked, because there has been no incident in 5 years. So those conditions are sufficient and appropriate for this type of business to continue in this area. The one area I would ask you to consider, and Madam Chairman, this would be a matter for yourselves, first of all, if you were minded to grant, and then if you were to consider conditions, is the one regarding the no sale of beers, wines and ciders beyond 6%. Now, this appears on the current license, and I'm quite happy for this to appear on a license going forward. I would ask you that things from 5 years have changed somewhat, and I would ask you to add to that save for premium products. I think this is a matter that's probably come before you on many occasions, Madam Chairman, that premium products coming from Europe, Belgian beers, Eastern European products that retail or have an ABV consistently around about 7.5% are very popular in the trade. We're not looking at the Carlsberg Special Brews and the Special Ks. We're not interested in that. It's to allow, with prior consent, premium beers or lagers to be sold from the premises. We'd be quite happy to have a prior list agreed with the police to say, okay, these are above 6%, but you can stock them. We'd ask you to consider that, Madam Chairman, if you were going down that route of granting the license. So that is the submission today. Mr. Ali is a chap who's been before you before. In fact, Mr. Ali was before you on the 23rd of April this year, because I appeared as well. And that was, if you remember, Madam, it was Rayhan Food Store that we had an application for, and you were very kindly granted that application. Mr. Ali was the premises license holder. And another point just to raise on that, this hearing took place 5 days after this alleged incident. There was no mention of, hang on, we now have a problem here from the police. It went through unopposed, and Mr. Ali was deemed to be a fit and proper person at that point. And I would argue there is no reason to presume he's not a fit and proper person to hold a license going forward. That is my submission. Be very happy to take any question. Mr. Ali, I assume, is available with his microphone unmuted and would be able to answer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Not immediately, thank you.
Councillor Shah?
Yes, so thank you, Chair. I'd just like a bit of a clarification in terms of deliveries. So I appreciate that they're moving from Kellaway Quarter, literally just moving from one premises to the other. Can the applicant or Mr. Gibson confirm, in terms of deliveries of the alcohol, will the hours remain unchanged? Alcohol delivery hours. So in terms of any noise nuisance to neighbours potentially increasing, for example, earlier or later.
Councillor, could I ask Mr. Ali to answer that one? Mr. Ali, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Could you take the question for the councillor on terms of what time do you propose any change to the time of deliveries of alcohol to your premises, or even general deliveries to your premises when you move to the new unit?
No.
It will be exactly the same.
Thank you.
I have one question. You mentioned that this is essentially a move of premises from number 12 to number 16. Is there a plan to start operating at number 16 and slowly migrate the business across, or is that seen as, you know, it would be an immediate move, so 12 would shut down and 16 would open? I'm just wondering if the surrender of the license at 12 would be possible at the same time as 16 starts to trade.
Madam, my understanding of that is yes, that once for a simple reason, you're going to be carrying stock in two separate premises, which is going to increase the drain on the cash flow somewhat if you're filling two shops as opposed to one. So the stock from one will move into the stock become the stock for the second premises. So my understanding is that once one opens on day one of the opening of 16, you should receive an email in your inbox, or the licensing department should, saying we wish to surrender number 12. Mr. Ali, could you confirm or deny that that is the case?
Yes.
Yes, you're happy that that is the case, that once number 16 opens, number 12 will automatically or immediately be surrendered?
Immediately be surrendered.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Massey, did you have something else you wanted to ask?
Yes, sorry, it just occurred to me, because we've been talking about the CCTV, is that actually now in and working correctly? And how long a period is it recording for?
Madam, again, I will answer to my knowledge and then ask Mr. Ali to confirm. My understanding is yes, the CCTV is now working as it should do and is recording for 31 days, as is stated on the current license at number 12. Mr. Ali, can you confirm or deny that?
Yes, please.
You can confirm that that is the case?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, as the policy advisor to the committee, do you have anything you wish to ask the applicant?
No, thank you, Chair.
Ashley, as the legal advisor to the committee, do you have anything you wish to ask the applicant?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to move on now to the presentation from the police representative. So can I invite Louise Mowbray as the police representative to make your representation?
Good morning, Chair. Just to confirm, obviously the police initially had the application, and just for our records, there's no indication that this was a transfer or another applicant, or the license was to be surrendered from the number 12. So that's a little bit of clarification I didn't have. So once that's been, thank you, Mr. Gibson, thanks for that. And obviously if the license is surrendered, that's fine. Obviously our concerns are that the police attended the premises on the 18th of April. There was an altercation at the premise, and at the moment, having looked this morning, it's still an ongoing investigation. I can't comment on that investigation. The officer, when he attended, requested to see the CCTV. They were unable to download it at the time, so the officer recorded the actions and the altercation on his body-worn camera. At the time, he asked Mr. Ali to retain the CCTV. He said he would be back to collect that. So at that time, he was asked to retain that CCTV. Following inquiries, a further request was made. Officers attended to get the CCTV, and Mr. Ali stated that he was unable to do that because it had only been retained for 7 days, which obviously now the officer has only got that footage on his body cam. I'd like to counter the scenario that the representative has given regarding the incident at the premises. Obviously, I can't go into details of that, but what Mr. Gibson has stated from my reading of the report this morning is incorrect. But obviously, it's an ongoing investigation. I can't comment on that. As Mr. Gibson has stated, it has been a couple of months since officers have contacted Mr. Ali regarding this, but I'd just like to counter that allegation, saying the officers involved in this have been involved in pandemic policing. So it is understandable that at the moment, investigations may take a little bit of time. Mr. Gibson's also talked about premium products, but I would counter that to say that's unquantifiable and unenforceable. It's very difficult to say what to some people is premium products and what to others is not. So there is a little bit of concern about that one. Obviously, my concerns at the moment is the applicant was involved in this alleged assault, but obviously I can't comment on that because it's still ongoing. With regards to the conditions I've proffered, if the committee were mindful to grant that, I think these are a fair, proportionate, and if the committee were to grant that, I would ask that they would be, added to the licence in full. I'll leave that with the committee for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Massey, do you have any questions for the police?
Yeah. I'd just like to check with Louise. You said in your statement that there's a substantial Tesco store within close proximity. Now, I know the area not reasonably well, but fairly. And the only one I can think of is Tesco Golden Hill, which is something like a 12-minute walk away. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean that's the substantial one, and obviously it does sell a full range, obviously, of what is trying to be offered here.
Right, but it's not particularly close to this premises, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it is close in terms of, you know, for the local community, if they wanted to purchase alcohol.
Yeah, no, I will.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councillor Shah, do you have any questions for the police?
Thank you, Chair. I have no questions, but I do know and concur from my experience on the police and crime panel that given the current pandemic, there's a lot of strain on policing resources.
He knows and his team know. Just
Carl Knights, do you have any questions as policy advisor?
Just one, thank you, Chair. I wondered if it might be helpful to hear from Louise about the justification for the strength of alcohol condition. Is there an issue in the area with street drinking, for example?
There is at the moment. I mean, obviously, there, you know, I can't look at the figures at the moment because obviously we're in this meeting, but there is an issue with street drinking in that area at the moment, and obviously the police are doing what they can to minimise that. I wouldn't say it's outside the shop, but there is obviously issues in that area.
Thank you. Ashley Clark, as legal advisor, do you have any questions for the police?
No, thank you, Chair.
And I'd like now to ask the applicant and the applicant's representative, do you have any questions that you would like to ask the police representative at this point?
Not at the moment. I think I can deal with what has been said in the summing up.
Thank you. Then I would like to invite the police representative to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. My concerns obviously are the actions of the applicant, not proportionate to what happened in the store. Obviously, it's an ongoing investigation. I can't comment on that. And at the moment, I would suggest the applicant is not fit or proper to have this licence in this place. Until this investigation is over.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson and Mr. Ali, I would like to invite you now to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. I don't propose to take up very much of your time at all, other than to say this. We heard at the beginning of the police rep that they had no knowledge of the fact that one licence would be surrendered as another one was granted. That was clearly stated at the beginning of the police rep. So there was no thought process in the police's mind that this would be the case. So I ask you, when you go to deliberate, to take away this thought, as if this was such a serious incident and it happened 2 months ago, why was there no review proceedings brought against Mr. Ali for number 12 Kellaway store? A serious assault or an assault or whatever you want to call it, as the police would have you believe, it's an ongoing investigation. Why has there been no review application brought against number 12? It can't be said, well, what's the point? It was going to move to number 16 anyway. The police have actually told you they didn't know that. So there was no reason for the police not to take review proceedings against Mr. Ali at number 12. It was disappointing to note that even though this is an ongoing investigation, as the police say, and probably on half a dozen occasions, Louise has said, I can't comment, but there was no witness statement from the police officer who attended on the day submitted as evidence, which surely would have assisted you, Madam Chairman, and your members to come to an informed decision to say, well, this is what the police officer on the 18th of April discovered when he visited the premises. We have nothing to go on. And coming back to the premium products, saying premium products can't be defined, they're ambiguous, whatever. What I did say was premium products to be allowed agreed with the police, pre-agreement. So there'd be a list provided to the police to say, this is what we would like to sell. Do you agree? The police would have every indication to say, no, we don't agree. So there can be no ambiguity on this. It's either an agreement or it's not an agreement. It's not what Mr. Ali decides is a premium product and nobody else does. It's a pre-agreed range of products. And just to finally say, you've heard today very little to suggest that Mr. Ali should not be granted this license, other than it's ongoing and I can't comment. Well, none of us can comment then, so there's nothing to comment on. And surely I would say that if, and it is a big if from my end of of the spectrum. If something came to light that was incriminating against Mr. Raleigh and maybe further action was taken down the line, of course you, Madam Chairman, have the armory of a review process on the new license should that become necessary. But I don't see you have anything at the moment to say to Mr. Raleigh, no, I'm sorry, you can't have this new license, but we also recognise we're not doing anything to review your current license where it happened. Thank you, Madam. I appreciate your time.
Thank you all very much. We're going to close this part of the meeting now, and the members of the committee will retire to deliberate. Claudette, as clerk to the committee, can I ask you to talk everyone through the plan for that?
Yes, of course, Chair. The situation will be that my colleagues will remove all parties to the waiting room. We could be deliberating for anything from half an hour to 45 minutes, if not longer, but we will update you. The panel will now remove them, will be removed to a private meeting room for us to deliberate, and we will send an email or a notification to say when we're ready for the decision making. Is that okay? So
Great.
stay on. We're just going to move you quietly into the waiting area. Thank you. All very technical. Thank you. So I'm just going to put everyone back in the waiting room. Right, lovely. We're still broadcasting. So can I ask the technical support to move the panel with the lawyer and the policy officer, please, into the meeting room. Thank you, Amara. So if you could just wait just one moment, we'll appear somewhere else. No invitation yet, sorry, it will happen, just bear with me. Just bear with me, please. You should have an invitation now. Can you click? Amara, can you bring everyone back in from the waiting room for me, please? We seem to be having the police are not present. Are they unable to join?
It says joining right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Present, but not present. Just bear with me, Chair. We don't seem to have anyone present in the video for the police, and I'm sure she wants to hear the decision.
That's fine, we can wait a moment.
Yeah, so we'll just wait a few minutes.
It does look like it's one of the police officers, so probably should be back.
We'll just give it one moment, Chair. And if she's not back, as we're live and recorded, she can see the decision that has been made by going to the Bristol City Council's YouTube page where this is being broadcast. Mr. Ali, are you there? Ready for the decision? I know I can see Mr. Gibson.
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you. Chair, do you want to continue, please?
Thank you. So, having considered all the submissions made to the committee has resolved to grant the licence as requested, subject to all the conditions offered and those suggested by the police, apart from the one condition relating to the restriction of the sale of alcohol above 6%, as this was not considered to be proportionate. Members accept Mr. Ali's undertaking to surrender the licence for 12 Kellaway Avenue as soon as practicable after the commencement of the licence at number 16. That is the conclusion of the decision and of this hearing. Thank you all very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Or I'm just going to move the parties back into the waiting room and remove them from the meeting, please. And if I could ask Amara, if you could put the panel councillors and the legal advisor and the policy officer back into the room, please, for further discussion. Thank you.